Truth and love must win over bureaucracy and greed. But that won't happen in the Czech Republic. Why? Because we have a democratic constitution, yes. But unconstitutional laws and rules are applied here without caring about individual rights. So your truth is less important than what they call legal fiction. Yes, that's a new term in the justice system. They can pretend to deliver something to you, and then pretend to sentence you, and that's where the pretending stops. Suddenly, it becomes real, and they take your real property, your physical belongings, and you can't appeal it. I misunderstood the propaganda and government statements. They talk about supporting science and research, because there's nothing written there about a reward for successful solutions. The EU and the Czech Republic simply don't have a plan for how to handle breakthrough solutions. They only have money for those who can beat around the bush. They pay for research, not for solutions. And that's the problem. A problem with their whole way of thinking. So everyone is given a small piece of something to research, without anyone telling them why or what for. And so they research and study and write nonsense about why it can't be done. But mostly, they just draw funds, make promises, and go in circles. Or the best ones go there and back again. And the world around us innovates and picks up speed. Here they just talk and do paperwork. And then comes someone who wasn't told it couldn't be done. And they do it. And that's bad. That's really bad. That's not allowed. Most importantly, no one must find out. Well, that fool is me. And now my private execution is happening. And so I want to warn everyone else. If you have results, run for your life, or they will destroy your work, your family, your company, your results, your evidence, everything. The systematic destruction of a life's work. Czechostan, my livelihood, my company, my reputation, all ground to dust by the system. A system that seems designed to crush, not to lift up, not to support, but to put out any spark that dares to shine too brightly. This is the cost of innovation in the Czech Republic. The state of science and progress in the year 2025. They say the costs are too high for scientific teams. I'm telling you, for an individual, it's complete destruction. It's a slow, painful execution of your dreams. Your property, your equipment, your tools, even your personal documents, your vehicles. Nothing is sacred. Nothing is safe. Everything can be taken. Everything can be destroyed. And your family? They have to watch it happen. They have to be part of that destruction. This is the reality behind those shiny brochures. The labyrinth of no. I'm drowning in Czech bureaucracy. Bureaucracy. Ah, the Czech national sport. A maze of hallways, all leading to dead ends. A mountain of papers made to break your spirit. Every stamp, every signature, another wall to overcome. Do you think you have a groundbreaking idea? Great. First, fill out these forms in triplicate, then wait, and keep waiting for a decision that will most likely be negative, or worse, a conditional yes, so tangled in red tape that it chokes your project before it even breathes. The state, the local government, an endless line of officials, each of them a gatekeeper, each of them a potential obstacle, armed with regulations, with unclear rules, often interpreted with an eagerness that defies logic. Sometimes it seems with an eagerness that defies the Constitution itself. Legal ignorance is not a flaw in this system, rather it seems like a feature, a weapon, used against those who dare to resist, those who dare to innovate outside the approved boxes. Boxes often defined by those who have never innovated anything. My projects weren't just ideas, they were tangible. They had global potential, but they ran into this bureaucratic monster. This machine that thrives on compliance, not creativity, that enormous weight, that absurdity. Trying to explain, to argue is like shouting into the void. They don't understand, or maybe they don't want to. Innovation requires agility, speed, flexibility. Czech bureaucracy offers molasses, concrete, a slow, crushing halt to any progress. It's a war of attrition you're destined to lose. And it's not just incompetence, oh no, it's the automation of absurdity, incomprehensible decrees, misinterpreted laws, applied with robotic precision, regardless of context, regardless of the human cost. The system is set up for failure. For your failure. As I've experienced over the past 2 years, it's designed for it. It's not about supporting innovation, it's about maintaining control, about maintaining the status quo. and woe betide anyone who tries to disrupt it. You become a target, a problem to be eliminated. When the state becomes a predator, my personal crucifixion. It started quietly. A small problem here. A strange question there. But soon a pattern showed up. The state was not my partner, not even a neutral watcher. It became my enemy, my predator. The very groups that were supposed to serve and protect, they focused on me, on my work, with chilling efficiency, a terrifying focus. My projects, once a source of pride, became a burden, a beacon attracting the worst kind of attention, the kind that tries to break down, to destroy, not with bombs or bullets, but with paper, with power. I have personally seen and lived through what I can only describe as 3 court-approved practices. These aren't just ideas. This is my life since mid-2023. First, the taking and seizing of property. Everything I built, my tools, my materials, my ideas, my physical things, taken, gone, vanished into the state's mouth, under excuses so weak they'd be funny. If the results weren't so terrible, my business, my way of life torn to pieces. No fair process that felt real, just endless pressure. Then came the second tactic: threats and bullying. Not in dark alleys by shadowy figures, but in official offices, by people in trusted positions, hidden threats, impossible demands, the constant fear of what they'll do next. It's a mind game, designed to break you, to make you give up, to make you surrender. They want you to understand your place. And your place isn't to soar, it's to obey, or be crushed under the heel of their power. And finally, the third part of this nightmare, the complete freedom from punishment for those who misuse their power, and the total, deafening ignoring of your pleas. Are you calling for help? For fairness? Silence. Are you pointing out abuse, illegal acts? They turn away. The system protects its own, always. The single citizen, the innovator, the business owner, you are not important. Your rights, they can be taken away. Your suffering, it doesn't matter. This is the whip they use to make you run. And few, if any, come out unharmed, or even at all. Empty promises, empty coffers, the farce of innovation support. You hear those big statements, right? Politicians on TV beaming with pride. We support innovation. We're building a modern Czech Republic. They talk about tech centers, about funds for startups, about a nation leading the way into the future. It sounds amazing, even inspiring, but scratch the surface just a little, and you'll find a completely different reality. A reality of empty words, empty gestures. A system designed to look good, not to do good. Real innovation support for new technologies, it's a mirage. A cruel joke played on those who hope. There are only proclamations, grand commitments, often turned into laws and regulations, without real thought, without impact studies, just more rules, more burdens, more obstacles. They talk about grants, about funding, but try to get it. Just try. You'll find yourself in another labyrinth, a labyrinth designed to filter out the truly independent, the truly groundbreaking. Tenders, when they appear, are a masterpiece of cynical design, created to be practically impossible to get. Unless, of course, you know the right people, or more often, unless you go through them. Intermediary agencies, consultants, middlemen, they circle like vultures around these public funds. They know how to navigate the system, how to play the game. Their price? A hefty slice of the pie. They drain the grants dry, leaving crumbs for the innovator, and all the obligations, all the risks, all the work, paid out of their own pocket. So the innovator, the one with the real idea, the one doing the real work, taking the real risks, ends up funding the very system that claims to support them. It's a twisted cycle, a tragic comedy. You pay for the privilege of innovating, and then you pay again when the system turns against you. That's not support, that's exploitation, that's a betrayal of trust, a betrayal of the future they claim to be building, but they're building it on shattered dreams and empty promises, and the innovator pays the bill for their charade. Part 5. The Tender Trap, a game rigged from the start. Let's talk more about these tenders, these supposed opportunities. They show up like beacons of hope in official gazettes promising resources for those who dare to create, but often they're traps cleverly disguised. The criteria? So specific, so narrow. You'd say they were written for one specific company. It's funny, right? Or they're so complex, so demanding that you need a team of lawyers and accountants just to apply. For the small innovator, the lone visionary, forget about it. You're out before you even start. And if by some miracle you qualify, if you pour weeks, months into a proposal that lays bare your intellectual property, your unique ideas, your competitive edge, you send it into the void hoping for the best. Then the real games begin. Delays, requests for clarification, moving goalposts, opaque decision-making. It's designed to wear you down, to make you compliant, to force you to accept any terms, even terms that will destroy your project or your ownership. And those intermediary agencies I mentioned, they're the gatekeepers of this rigged casino. They thrive in this complexity, this opacity. They offer to help you navigate the process for a hefty fee, of course, or a cut of the grant, often a very large cut. They become the true beneficiaries of innovation funding, not the innovators themselves, nor the Czech economy, but a parasitic class of middlemen who produce nothing but paperwork and invoices. They suck the lifeblood out of real projects. This system doesn't foster fair competition, it fosters cronyism. It rewards connections, not merit. It ensures that public money flows in predictable circles, often enriching those already well-situated, while the true pioneers, the groundbreaking thinkers, are left out in the cold. Or worse, their ideas are harvested, their spirit broken. This isn't a path to progress. It's a carefully constructed barrier, a con played with taxpayer money. And the victim is the future of Czech innovation. Section 6. Justice for sale, the scales tipped by power and coin. Ah, justice. That noble idea, that blind lady with the scales. In the Czech Republic it seems her blindfold is slipping, especially when money and power walk into the courtroom. Law and justice? Here they're just things to be bought and sold, available to those who can pay the price. If you have deep pockets, influential friends, the law can be surprisingly flexible, adaptable. But if you're an ordinary citizen, an innovator with no connections, get ready for a very different experience. Get ready for the full, unyielding force of the system. Personal property, they say it's protected, a cornerstone of a free society. But my experience tells a different story. It seems personal ownership is a myth, a privilege given and easily taken away, especially when others want what you have, or when it serves as an example. My possessions, my tools, my home, my vehicles, things I worked my whole life to build and earn, they were treated as if they meant nothing. Confiscated, disposed of, with chilling ease. The courts? Often just a rubber stamp. And what about family, privacy, child protection? These are sacred values, right? Apparently not for everyone in power. The system seems to not care about these basic human concerns. Where is the urgency to protect the vulnerable? We lack basic laws, for example, about prostitution, about pimping, about protecting children from being used and abused. So these evils grow, unchecked, unpunished, while the state focuses its resources elsewhere, often on going after those who pose no real threat, like innovators or drivers. Presumption of innocence, right to a fair trial, freedom of speech, even GDPR data protection. These are rights, they say, written into law. But for whom do they truly apply? It seems these protections are kept for a select few, maybe for criminals, for the powerful, but for the ordinary citizen, the business owner, the driver, these rights often seem like faraway, impossible ideas. You're assumed guilty, your voice is silenced, your data is fair game. That's the harsh truth of seeking justice, when you're just one person against the machine. Section 7. Guardians of order or masters of extortion. A run-in with the law, the Czech Republic police. They have a funny slogan on their cars, to help and protect. But they left out who and for how much. My encounters, and what I've seen, paint a troubling picture. A picture far from those comforting slogans. It seems there are no clear rules against abusing public power, or if there are, they're conveniently ignored, especially when it comes to making money from the pockets of regular citizens, all of course under the guise of public safety. Take road safety, for example, a noble goal, but often it feels like an excuse. a license for what I can only describe as street robbery. Officers seem trained not just in traffic laws, but in the art of intimidation, in maximizing fines. They cause traffic jams with their safety checks, always working in pairs, for tactical advantage. And what if you can't pay that outrageous fine on the spot? They call for backup, reinforcements arrive, suddenly you're surrounded, outnumbered. They take cards, they take cash, anything, they might say. Is it safety or sophisticated roadside extortion? They use the Police Act like a club, justifying almost any action against a citizen who isn't a police officer, and therefore has fewer rights. It's a shield for their behavior, a tool of power. And if you dare to resist, to question, be ready for force. I've seen their gear, I've faced it. Gloves with reinforced knuckles, not one but two semi-automatic pistols, loaded with 9 or 10 millimeter rounds, dum-dum type, expanding bullets, radios, nunchaku, a survival knife. That's not just standard equipment for a traffic stop, that's preparation for battle. Against whom? I even secretly filmed one such intervention against me. A small policewoman makes contact, then a swarm, up to 6 more patrols called in, to surround one person, one unarmed citizen, one innovator. This isn't police work. This is a show of force. This is intimidation. This is an abuse of power. Drivers, anyone with a driver's license or a gun permit. We face daily harassment, constant surveillance, random checks, filming, fines, confiscation of documents, confiscation of property, frozen bank accounts. Night checks are relentless, extreme. This is the Czech Republic in 2025 for too many of us. Section 8, Human Ruin, picking up pieces of a shattered life. What's the final cost of this war against new ideas? Of this system that abuses its power? Of all this red tape that chokes everything? It's not just about money like crowns and euros. It's about lives that are broken, about dreams that are shattered. It's about people being ruined. I am that ruin, or part of it. My projects, which once had big potential all over the world, destroyed. My way of making a living, which I built carefully over years, gone. My company, my business license, destroyed. My stuff, my tools for creating things, my cars, my home. They took everything from me. They seized it. Often with a cruel lack of care, even my personal papers which you need just to live. My good name smashed, stained by hints and rumors just because the government decided to target me. My job, derailed, maybe forever. Who would want to work with someone the system has marked? My money, completely wiped out. Decades of working, saving, investing, erased. All that's left is debt and despair. And all of this was built without any help from the government, remember? Without help from the state which I once believed in, every screw, every wire, every line of code, paid for with my own sweat and hard work, only to see it all taken from me. And the toll on my family? Unspeakable. They watched this nightmare happen, helpless. They shared the stress, the fear, the uncertainty, the shame that the system tries to force on you. Their lives were also hurt beyond repair. This isn't just an attack on one person, it's an attack on the family unit, on human dignity, the constant worry, sleepless nights, the feeling that you're being hunted, that you're alone. That's the personal cost they never mention. In their fancy reports about how well the economy is doing, that's the dark side of their order. The system, in its endless pursuit, doesn't just take your present, it steals your future. It tries to break your spirit, to silence your voice, to make an example of you for others who might dare, who might dream of new ideas, of questioning how things are. They want you to disappear, to become a forgotten number. But I refuse to be quiet. I refuse to be forgotten. My story is a warning, a testimony, about the price of new ideas in a system that has lost its way, lost its moral compass, and is actively eating its own children, those who could build its future. Part 9. A glimmer in the abyss. A nation's soul is on the line. So what now, after all this destruction, after dreams have turned to ash? Is there still any hope? A glimmer in the dark? Or is this just how it is now? The new normal in our beloved Czech Republic, where innovation is a crime punished by ruin, where bureaucracy is king and citizens are subjects, where justice has a price tag and the police act like debt collectors, for a system that seems to fear its own people, especially those who think differently. who create, who build. It's a grim picture, I know, because I've lived it. Someone might say this is just one man's story, an isolated case, overblown. I wish that were true, I really do. But I'm afraid my experience is a symptom of a deeper sickness, a rot within the system. A system that talks about progress, but walks the path of oppression and stagnation. When the state actively works to destroy its innovators, its entrepreneurs, its visionaries, what kind of future is it building? For whom? These aren't idle questions, these are urgent. The very soul of our nation is at stake. Change is needed, desperately, fundamentally. Not just small tweaks, not more empty promises. We need a system that truly supports innovation, not just in words but in deeds, real opportunities. We need a bureaucracy that serves, not suffocates. We need a legal system that ensures justice for all, not just for the rich and powerful. We need law enforcement that protects citizens, not those who hunt them. We need accountability for those who abuse power, real accountability, not just internal investigations that go nowhere. Maybe this is a heartfelt plea. Yes. But it's also a demand, a call to action, to those in power, to my fellow citizens. Do we want to live in a country that devours its young, that punishes creativity and rewards conformity? Or do we want a Czech Republic that is truly innovative, truly free, truly just? The choice is ours. But time is running out. The cost of inaction is much higher than the cost of the comfortable illusions they sell us. We must choose, and we must choose wisely, before it's truly too late for all of us.